The text arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that would split my life into before and after. OMG, babe, doctor confirmed it. We're having triplets. This is going to be amazing content. Love you so much. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at my phone screen in my cramped downtown Chicago office, surrounded by half-finished graphic design mock-ups and cold coffee. Sophia's message glowed with the artificial enthusiasm that had made her Instagram famous, but something twisted in my gut. Not joy, not excitement, something darker. Ryan, you okay? My colleague Jake peered over his monitor. You look like you've seen a ghost. Triplets, I managed, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. Sophia's pregnant with triplets. Jake whistled low. Dude, that's insane. Congratulations, I guess? I guess. That summed up my entire relationship with Sophia Martinez, the woman I'd been living with for 3 years, the one whose ring finger bore my grandmother's diamond, the one whose every breath was documented for her 847,000 followers. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sophia. Can't wait to tell Chris he's going to die. Meeting him at Cafe Luna in an hour. This changes everything. Chris Valdez. Her gay bestie, as she called him in her posts. The flamboyant, perfectly coiffed man-child who'd attached himself to Sophia's rising star like a remora on a shark. Something about that guy had always made my skin crawl, though I could never put my finger on why. I closed my laptop and grabbed my jacket. The October wind cut through downtown Chicago like a blade, matching my mood perfectly. Our apartment building loomed ahead, all glass and steel pretension that Sophia had insisted on despite the astronomical rent. It's all about the aesthetic, babe, she'd said. My followers expect a certain lifestyle. Her followers. Everything in our life revolved around those faceless usernames and heart emojis. Our dates were photo opportunities. Our conversations were interrupted by ring lights and tripods. Even our bedroom had become a set for her authentic morning routine videos. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt eternal. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking for reasons I couldn't explain. Inside, the apartment looked like a magazine spread, all white furniture and carefully arranged succulents, not a single item out of place. Sophia's ring light dominated the living room like a small sun, casting everything in that harsh, artificial glow I'd grown to hate. I needed to think, process, figure out why the news that should have made me the happiest man alive instead felt like a death sentence. 3 babies. With Sophia. The woman who threw tantrums when her latte wasn't perfectly heart-shaped, who'd never changed a diaper in her life, who considered a broken nail a legitimate crisis. The woman who'd been staying out later and later with Chris, claiming business meetings and content planning sessions that stretched past midnight. My phone rang. Sophia's contact photo filled the screen. Her perfect smile, perfect hair, perfect everything that suddenly seemed like a mask. Baby. Her voice was sugar-sweet with that slight uptick that meant she was performing. Did you get my text? Isn't this the most amazing news ever? Yeah, I said, sinking onto our pristine white couch. Amazing. When did you find out? This morning. I've been dying to tell you, but I wanted to do it right, you know? For the content. Chris is helping me plan the announcement video. We're thinking maybe a series, Journey to Motherhood or something like that. The engagement is going to be incredible. Of course, even our unborn children were content opportunities. Sophia, I said slowly, when exactly did you take the pregnancy test? A pause. Just a heartbeat too long. What do you mean? I mean, when did you first suspect? When did you test? You've been tired lately, but you haven't been sick or anything. Oh my God, Ryan, why are you interrogating me? This should be a celebration. I'm carrying your babies, our babies, and you're acting like it's some kind of crime. The way she said, "your babies," made something cold slither down my spine. Not our babies. Your babies. Like she was assigning ownership. "I'm sorry," I said, though I wasn't. "I'm just shocked. It's a lot to process." "I know, babe. It's huge. Life-changing. Chris says I should document everything from day one. Think about it. Pregnancy content is massive right now. We could probably land some major sponsorships. Baby brands love authentic pregnancy journeys." Authentic. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. "Where are you now?" I asked. "Still at Cafe Luna with Chris. We're brainstorming the announcement strategy. Don't wait up. This might take a while. Love you." The line went silent. I sat in our perfect apartment, surrounded by perfect things, feeling perfectly hollow inside. Something was wrong. Every instinct I had screamed it. Sophia's timing, her excitement about the content potential, her immediate rush to tell Chris before even celebrating with me. It all felt orchestrated, performed. I walked to our bedroom, needing to move, to do something with the nervous energy crackling under my skin. Sophia's side of the room was chaos barely contained. Makeup scattered across the vanity, clothes draped over every surface, charging cables snaking everywhere like electronic ivy. That's when I saw it. A piece of paper, crumpled and shoved behind her jewelry box like she'd tried to throw it away, but missed the trash can. My hands moved without conscious thought, smoothing out the wrinkled receipt. Chicago Medical Laboratory, paternity testing services, rush order, $400. The date was from 2 weeks ago. My vision tunneled. The paper shook in my hands as I read it again, then again, the words refusing to change or disappear. Paternity testing. Before she'd even told me she was pregnant, Sophia had been testing to see who the father was, which meant she wasn't sure, which meant she'd been sleeping with someone else. The room spun around me. I gripped the edge of her vanity, knocking over bottles of foundation and setting spray. They crashed to the floor, leaving beige stains on the white carpet like blood spatters. Chris. It had to be Chris. All those late nights, all those business meetings, all those times she'd come home smelling like his cologne and claiming they'd been working on content strategy. But Chris was gay, wasn't he? He dated men, posted about his boyfriends, made his sexuality part of his brand. Unless that was just another performance. Another carefully crafted lie for the cameras. I pocketed the receipt and stumbled back to the living room. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, Sophia's Instagram account still logged in from when I'd helped her edit photos earlier. My fingers moved across the keyboard like they belonged to someone else. Her DMs were a treasure trove of brand partnerships and collaboration requests, but I scrolled deeper, looking for something else. Something hidden. There. A thread with Chris from 3 weeks ago. "Can't wait for tonight. Ryan's working late again. Perfect timing. Your place or mine? Mine. Bring the good champagne." The messages went back months. Flirtatious, intimate, explicit in ways that made my stomach turn. And then, from 2 weeks ago, test results came back. "It's yours. All 3. Holy shit. What do we do? We stick to the plan. Ryan will never know. The brand deals alone will set us up for life. What about Marcus? He's getting suspicious. Marcus is an idiot. Just keep playing the part for a few more months. Marcus. Chris's supposed boyfriend. Another victim in whatever sick game they were playing. I screenshotted everything, my hands steady now with purpose. The shock was crystallizing into something harder, sharper. Something that felt like the first stirrings of rage. My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. "Staying at Chris's tonight to work on the announcement video. See you tomorrow. Can't wait to start this journey together." This journey. Like it was a vacation package she'd booked for us both. I looked around our apartment. Her apartment, really, since everything in it served her needs, her brand, her carefully constructed fantasy life. The ring light glared down at me like an unblinking eye, and for the first time in 3 years, I wanted to smash it into 1,000 pieces. Instead, I opened my laptop and started planning. If Sophia wanted to play games with people's lives, if she wanted to build her empire on lies and manipulation, then she was about to learn what happened when you chose the wrong person to betray. The triplets weren't mine. The woman I'd planned to marry was a fraud. My entire life was a lie designed to make her look good on social media. But I had screenshots. I had evidence. And I had something Sophia had never given me credit for, a very creative mind. Time to put it to good use. The next morning, I woke up alone in our king-sized bed, surrounded by the scent of Sophia's expensive perfume and the ghost of her presence. She'd texted me at 6 a.m., "Working on something amazing today. See you tonight for dinner. We need to celebrate properly." I lay there staring at the ceiling, the screenshots from last night burning in my phone like radioactive evidence. 3 babies. Chris's babies. Months of planning and deception, all for brand deals and sponsorship money. My phone rang. Jake from work. "Dude, you sound like hell," he said when I answered. "Rough night celebrating?" "Something like that." "Listen, I need to take a personal day. Maybe 2. "Everything okay? You're freaking me out here." I almost told him. Almost spilled everything right there, the cheating, the lies, the paternity test. But something held me back. Some instinct that said this information was ammunition, and I needed to be smart about how I used it. "Just processing the baby news," I said instead. "It's a lot. 3 babies is definitely a lot. Take care of yourself, man." After hanging up, I made coffee and sat at our dining table, the one Sophia had picked because it photographed well, and started researching paternity tests, Illinois law, social media contracts, and sponsorship agreements. By noon, I had a plan. First, I needed to confirm what I already knew. The lab receipt had a case number, and a few carefully placed phone calls later, I'd convinced a sympathetic technician that I was Ryan Carter calling to check on my paternity test results. "Oh yes, Mr. Carter," she said, the sound of typing in the background. "The results came back definitive. Christopher Valdez is the biological father of all 3 fetuses. The probability is 99.97%. All 3. Triplets, all Chris's." The scope of the deception was staggering. "Thank you," I managed, and hung up before she could ask any questions. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I created new email accounts, backed up all the evidence to multiple cloud services, and most importantly, I started documenting everything. Screenshots, call logs, receipts, building a timeline of lies that would be impossible to deny. At 6 p.m. sharp, Sophia's key turned in the lock. "Babe, I'm home!" Her voice carried that artificial cheer that meant she was still performing, even for an audience of 1. She appeared in the kitchen doorway looking radiant, professionally lit and camera ready, even though she'd supposedly been working all day. "Hey," I said, setting down my coffee mug. "How was your day?" "Incredible. Chris and I came up with the most amazing announcement concept. We're going to do a whole series, Unexpected Blessings, documenting the entire pregnancy journey. I already have 3 brands interested in partnerships." She moved around the kitchen like a dancer, all graceful gestures and perfectly timed movements. Even her casual moments looked choreographed. "That's great," I said. "When are you planning to announce?" "This weekend. We want to do it right. Professional photos, maybe a little video montage. Chris knows this amazing photographer who specializes in pregnancy announcements." Of course he did. "Sophia," I said carefully, "can I ask you something?" She paused in her performance, something flickering across her face. "Sure, babe. What's up?" "Are you happy? About the babies, I mean. Not the content opportunities, just, are you happy we're going to be parents?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. For just a moment the mask slipped, and I saw something raw underneath. Fear, maybe, or guilt. Then the smile snapped back into place. "Of course I'm happy. Why would you even ask that? We're going to be a family, Ryan, A real family. The way she emphasized real made my skin crawl, like our relationship had been fake until now, which, I was beginning to understand, it had been. "I love you," I said, testing the words, watching her reaction. "I love you too," she replied automatically, already moving toward her ring light setup. "Actually, do you mind if I film a quick update? My followers have been asking about my day, and I want to keep them engaged." Always the followers. Always the performance. I watched her transform in front of the camera, becoming the Sophia her audience knew, bubbly, relatable, perfectly imperfect. She talked about morning sickness she didn't have, cravings she'd never mentioned to me, and the overwhelming joy of impending motherhood. "Ryan's been so supportive," she gushed to the camera, gesturing toward me off-screen. "He's going to be the most amazing daddy. We're both just over the moon." The lies flowed so easily, so naturally, that I wondered how long she'd been practicing them. How long had I been living with a stranger who wore my girlfriend's face? After she finished filming, we ordered takeout and ate in relative silence. Sophia kept checking her phone, monitoring the engagement on her posts, responding to comments with heart emojis and generic thank you messages. "Chris wants to take us out this weekend," she said suddenly. "To celebrate. He knows this amazing rooftop bar downtown, very exclusive, perfect for photos." "Sounds fun," I lied. "Will Marcus be there?" Another flicker across her face. "Marcus? Oh, Chris's boyfriend? I don't think so. They've been having some issues lately." I bet they had. Hard to maintain a relationship when your boyfriend is secretly fathering triplets with his best friend. "That's too bad," I said. "I like Marcus. He seems genuine." Sophia's laugh was sharp. "Marcus is sweet, but he's kind of basic, you know? Not really Chris's type long-term." Not Chris's type, but apparently my pregnant girlfriend was. That night I lay awake, listening to Sophia's breathing, planning my next move. I could confront her directly, show her the evidence, demand the truth. But that would give her time to prepare, to spin the story, to turn herself into the victim. No. If Sophia wanted to play games, I'd play by her rules. Everything documented, everything performed, everything designed for maximum impact. She wanted a show? I'd give her a show she'd never forget. The next morning, Sophia left early for a content meeting with Chris. I waited until her location showed she was across town, then I got to work. First stop, the boxing gym where I'd been training for the past year. Tony, the owner, was an ex-cop with connections throughout the city and a healthy skepticism of social media influencers. "You look like hell, Carter," he said when I walked in. "Feel like it too." I hit the heavy bag a few times, working out the nervous energy. "Tony, can I ask you a hypothetical question?" "Shoot. If someone was planning to publicly humiliate a cheating partner, what would be the smartest way to do it without breaking any laws?" Tony raised an eyebrow. "This about your Instagram, princess?" I'd never told him much about Sophia, but Tony was observant. He'd probably figured out more than I'd realized. Hypothetically, he said, grinning. "I'd say timing is everything. Public venues, lots of witnesses, everything recorded. Can't argue with video evidence." "And if there were other people involved, people who might also be victims?" "Then you'd want to make sure they knew the truth too. Nothing worse than an innocent person getting caught in someone else's lies." I nodded, filing away his advice. "Thanks, Tony." "Anytime. And Carter, whatever you're planning, be smart about it. Don't let anger make you stupid." From the gym, I drove to Marcus's apartment. I'd only met him a few times at parties, but he'd seemed like a decent guy. Quiet, thoughtful, completely devoted to Chris. If anyone deserved to know the truth, it was him. He answered the door looking exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "Ryan, what are you doing here? Can we talk? It's important." He let me in, and I looked around his small but tidy apartment. Photos of him and Chris covered every surface, Vacation shots, dinner dates, lazy Sunday mornings. A whole relationship documented in snapshots, just like Sophia documented ours. "Marcus," I said, "I need to show you something. But I want you to know that I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the truth." I showed him the screenshots, the paternity test results, the timeline of lies. I watched his face crumble as the evidence mounted, watched him realize that his entire relationship was a performance designed to hide a deeper betrayal. "3 babies, he whispered, staring at his phone screen. "Chris is having 3 babies with Sophia." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "I know this is a lot." He was quiet for a long time, just staring at the photos on his walls. Finally, he looked up at me with eyes that had gone hard. "What are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to expose them, publicly, but I wanted you to know first, in case you wanted to be there when it happens." Marcus smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut glass. "Oh, I definitely want to be there." "When?" "This weekend. Sophia's planning to announce the pregnancy at some rooftop bar Chris picked out. Lots of cameras, lots of witnesses." "Perfect," Marcus said. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget." As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: excitement. For the first time since I'd met Sophia, I was in control of the narrative. I was writing the script, and the final act was going to be spectacular. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of crisp October air that made Chicago feel electric. I stood in front of our bathroom mirror, adjusting my tie and watching Sophia apply her makeup with the precision of a surgeon. She'd been primping for 3 hours, transforming herself into the perfect pregnant influencer. Glowing skin, artfully tousled hair, a form-fitting dress that showed just the hint of a bump that might or might not have been real. "You look beautiful," I said, and for once, I meant it. She did look beautiful. It was everything underneath that was rotten. "Thanks, babe." She turned to kiss my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "Tonight's going to be perfect. Chris has everything planned down to the minute." Of course he did. Chris, the master manipulator, orchestrating another performance. "Where did you say this place was again?" I asked. "Skyline Rooftop. It's new, super exclusive. Chris knows the owner." She grabbed her purse, checking her reflection one last time. "The views are supposed to be incredible." The views. Perfect for the dramatic confrontation I had planned. We took an Uber downtown, Sophia chattering nervously about engagement rates and brand partnerships, while I sat in silence, running through my plan one final time. Everything was in place. Marcus knew where to be and when. The evidence was loaded on my phone, backed up in 3 different cloud accounts. Even if Sophia tried to destroy my phone, the truth would survive. Skyline Rooftop occupied the top floor of a gleaming high-rise, all glass walls and trendy furniture designed to look good in photos. The space was already crowded with Sophia's usual crew, other influencers, photographers, hangers-on who fed off her success like parasites. Chris held court near the bar, resplendent in a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He spotted us immediately, his face lighting up with that practiced smile he used for cameras. "The parents-to-be!" he called out, arms spread wide. "Come here, you gorgeous creatures!" Sophia practically skipped over to him, accepting his theatrical hug and air kisses. I followed more slowly, studying his face for any sign of guilt or nervousness. Nothing. He was either a sociopath or the best actor I'd ever met. "Ryan, my man!" Chris grabbed my hand in both of his, squeezing tight. "How are you handling all this baby news? Must be overwhelming." "It's definitely been a learning experience," I said, letting just enough edge creep into my voice to make him pause. For just a second, his mask slipped. Something calculating flickered behind his eyes before the smile returned. "Well, tonight's all about celebration," he said. "I've planned something really special for you two." I bet he had. The next hour passed in a blur of small talk and posed photos. Sophia worked the room like the professional she was, making sure every angle was captured, every moment documented. I played my part, the supportive boyfriend, the excited father-to-be, all while watching the clock and waiting for my moment. At 9 p.m. exactly, Chris tapped his champagne flute with a knife, calling for attention. Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. The crowd quieted, phones rising like a forest of electronic trees. We're here tonight to celebrate something truly magical. My dearest friend Sophia has news to share, and I couldn't be more thrilled for her and Ryan. Sophia stepped forward, radiant under the string lights, one hand resting on her barely there bump. The cameras loved her. They always had. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice carrying perfectly across the rooftop. Ryan and I have been keeping a secret, and we're finally ready to share it with the world. She paused for dramatic effect, exactly like Chris had probably coached her. We're having a baby! She waited for the gasps and applause. Actually, we're having 3 babies. Triplets! The crowd erupted. Phones flashed like lightning. Someone started a champagne toast. It was everything Sophia had dreamed of. A perfect moment, perfectly captured, perfect content for her perfect brand. That's when I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the celebration like a blade, I have an announcement too. The crowd quieted, sensing drama. Sophia turned to me with confusion in her eyes, her smile faltering for the first time all evening. Ryan? She said carefully. What are you doing? I pulled out my phone, the screenshots already loaded and ready. I wanted to share some news about these triplets everyone's celebrating. Babe, this isn't the time. The thing is, I continued, raising my voice so everyone could hear, these babies aren't mine. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop on the rooftop, if not for the wind whipping between the buildings. What? Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. I held up my phone, showing the paternity test results to the crowd. According to Chicago Medical Laboratory, Christopher Valdez is the biological father of all 3 babies. Chaos erupted. Phones turned toward Chris, who had gone white as a sheet. Someone screamed. Someone else started recording. Sophia lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, keeping the evidence safe. You're lying! She shrieked, her perfect composure finally cracking. He's lying! Chris, tell them he's lying! But Chris couldn't speak. He stood frozen, trapped in the spotlight he'd always craved, finally exposed for what he really was. That's when Marcus appeared. He walked through the crowd like an avenging angel, still wearing his work clothes, his face set in stone. The crowd parted for him, sensing the electricity in the air. Hello, Chris, he said quietly. Chris made a sound like a wounded animal. Marcus, I can explain. Can you? Marcus's voice was calm. Can you explain how you've been sleeping with Sophia for months while telling me you loved me? Can you explain how you got her pregnant with triplets while planning our vacation to Europe? Can you explain any of this? The crowd pressed closer, phones capturing every word. This was better than any reality show, and they all knew it. It's not what it looks like, Chris stammered, but his heart wasn't in it. The game was over, and he knew it. Really? I said, pulling up more screenshots. Because these text messages between you and Sophia suggest otherwise. I started reading them aloud, the explicit messages, the planning sessions, the cold calculation behind their betrayal. With each word, Sophia seemed to shrink smaller, her perfect image crumbling in real time. The brand deals alone will set us up for life, I read from one message. Ryan will never know. Stop, Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face, ruining her carefully applied makeup. Please stop. But I wasn't done, not even close. The best part, I continued, is that this whole pregnancy announcement, it was never about love or family or any of the things you told your followers. It was about money, brand partnerships, Sponsorship deals. You were going to build your empire on a lie, and you didn't care who got hurt in the process. The crowd was restless now, angry. These people had followed Sophia, believed in her, bought the products she endorsed. They felt betrayed too, and their mood was turning ugly. "Fraud!" someone shouted from the back. "Fake!" called another voice. Sophia looked around desperately, searching for allies, but found none. Even her closest friends were backing away, distancing themselves from the scandal. "Chris," she pleaded, turning to her co-conspirator. "Say something. Help me." But Chris was already moving toward the exit, abandoning her just like he'd abandoned Marcus. When the ship started sinking, rats were always the first to flee. "Don't you dare!" Marcus called after him. "Don't you dare run away from this!" Chris paused at the elevator, his shoulders sagging in defeat. When he turned around, his face was streaked with tears. "I'm sorry," he said, but it was unclear who he was apologizing to. "I'm so sorry." The elevator doors closed behind him, leaving Sophia alone to face the consequences of their scheme. She turned to me, her eyes desperate. "Ryan, please. We can work this out. We can fix this." "Fix what?" I asked. "The lies? The cheating? The fact that you were going to let me raise another man's children while you cashed in on the deception?" "I love you," she said, reaching for me. I stepped back. "No, you don't. You love what I represented. The stable boyfriend, the good guy, the perfect prop for your perfect life. But you never loved me." The crowd was recording everything, uploading it in real time. By morning, this would be everywhere. Sophia's career, her brand, her carefully constructed image, all of it would be destroyed. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the crowd, "I give you Sophia Martinez, influencer, entrepreneur, and pathological liar. Make sure to like and subscribe." The laughter that followed was cruel but deserved. Sophia fled toward the bathroom, probably to hide, probably to figure out how to spin this disaster into something salvageable. But there was no coming back from this. Not from this level of public humiliation, not from this complete destruction of trust. I walked to the edge of the rooftop, looking out over the city lights of Chicago. The wind whipped around me, carrying away the last remnants of my old life. Behind me the party continued, but the celebration had turned into a wake. Marcus joined me at the railing, both of us staring out at the skyline. "How do you feel?" he asked. I thought about it. "Free," I said finally. "For the first time in 3 years, I feel free." "Yeah," he said. "Me too." We stood there in comfortable silence, two men who had been betrayed by the people they trusted most, who had found the strength to fight back and reclaim their lives. The elevator dinged behind us. Sophia emerged, her makeup repaired, her game face back on. She walked over to where a few stragglers were still filming, and I watched her transform one last time. "I want to address what just happened," she said to the cameras, her voice steady despite everything. "Ryan is clearly going through some kind of mental health crisis. The things he's saying, the accusations he's making, none of it is true. I'm going to be taking some time away from social media to focus on my pregnancy and my well-being." Even now, even after being caught red-handed, she was still trying to control the narrative, still trying to make herself the victim. But it wouldn't work. Not this time. The evidence was too clear, the betrayal too complete. Her followers were already abandoning her in droves, the comments on her posts turning toxic. I walked over to her, ignoring the cameras still rolling. "Sophia," I said quietly, "it's over. The lies, the manipulation, the fake relationship, all of it. You can keep trying to spin this, but everyone knows the truth now." She looked up at me with something that might have been genuine emotion for the first time all evening. "I did love you," she whispered. "In my own way, I did." "Maybe," I said. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. I left her there with her cameras and her lies, walking away from 3 years of my life without looking back. Marcus followed, and together we rode the elevator down to street level, leaving Sophia to face the wreckage of her own making. Outside, the Chicago night was crisp and clean, full of possibilities I hadn't allowed myself to imagine in years. My phone was buzzing with notifications, friend requests, interview offers, people wanting to know my side of the story. But I didn't need to tell my side. The truth had spoken for itself. As we walked toward the nearest bar, Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. "Drinks?" he asked. "Drinks," I agreed. Behind us, the lights of the skyline rooftop glittered like fallen stars, and somewhere up there, Sophia Martinez was learning the hardest lesson of her influencer career. When you build your life on lies, eventually, the truth will bring it all crashing down.